Namaskar, good evening, hello and welcome once again. We are in the 14th class of this special revision series for reading comprehension, and I am Bhuvan Apurva Jha. Okay. For those of you who are joining me for the first time, well, this is indeed the last weekend before your examinations. Last weekend. And so it's probably your last call insofar as you will have the time to go through reading comprehension in detail, to at least revisit the basics, the fundamentals, so that you are able to answer questions. Okay. Once again, I welcome all those who are joining. I see some amount of people who have joined us. So good to see you. Good to see you all. Firstly, quickly, for those of you who are just joining me for the first time, well, we are in the 14th class of this revision series. So far, we have covered everything. Hi Yogesh, how are you? Good to see you. So we have covered everything insofar as CSAT is concerned. We have, especially the reading comprehension bit, we have looked at ideas, tones, ancillary ideas, corollary, conclusion, gist, inference, all of those words that often seem to confuse and flummox students. We have done those. Quickly, I'll just take you back through what we have done. Okay. Hi Anup, good to see you. Yogesh, see your question about ethics and values, that what you had asked me essentially. So you have to look at it from a very personal perspective. Okay. Values are essentially what you have inculcated in yourselves, what has been passed over to you over a period of time. Ethics is again something that's the general norm. What is the general norm of acceptance insofar as an action is good or bad? It's a very elongated discussion. If I want to explain it to you, then I'll be eating into the time of CSAT. But then in just one line, if I can explain it to you, values are inculcated. They are passed down to you. It's the norm. Whereas ethical society is something that again looks at a moral compass. It has a moral compass to it. So anyways, Vince, good evening. Hi, good to see you. Mallikarjun, welcome back. How much time should we take for RC? See, Vince, I'll tell you something. If you're looking at the exam perspective, okay, so what essentially we do know so far, that you can expect, say, 25 questions from reading comprehension, which is out of 80 questions, you're looking at, say, 25 questions, okay, on an average. Now, for these 25 questions, given that the length of the passage differs, so in today's class, we'll see how, so you have smaller passages worth just 100 words, 125 words, and then you have the longer passages. 2018, for example, I'll tell you, there were roughly close to 25 questions and around 7 plus 7, 14 questions that came from like long passages. So it does require you to have a bit of reading speed. Accuracy of speed is required. Okay. And more importantly, again, the long passages will have a lot of information in them, but the questions that follow them are generally quite easy. The difficult ones are the ones where you have, say, 100 words and then they ask you identify the author's assumption or the inference. So we'll discuss all of that in the whole class of this. Yogesh, okay, sorry, I missed your comment there. So look at it. If ethics is as a society, you look at it, whereas values is an individual, and then you have a lot of things that will be in the middle. So for example, honesty, so it's an ethical concept. At the same time, a person is also supposed to be honest. So a lot of overlapping is there. Like I tell you, if you want to understand this, let's have a discussion in detail. There are so many concepts and tangents to it that will be unfair for me to give you a succinct answer and then probably mislead you. But then if you have to understand it in one line, you do have a lot of overlapping when it comes to ethics and values. Ethics is essentially on a large scale. Again, individuals can also have ethics. Values is essentially what's given to you over the course of a time. What you inculcate or learn from your family, your friends, all of that. Okay, we'll do it. Don't worry. I'll answer your question for sure. Anyways, coming back. Hi Dukhiram, good to see you. So coming back to CSAT, I digress. So first class we had intro. Okay, now that you are around 7 days away from your CSAT, the only thing that I can ask you right now is, well, obviously, don't go through the intro right now. Make sure that you understand the central idea and the tone identification. Okay, the tone identification. So 2, 3, 4 and 5. These lectures become extremely important because that's where we have discussed the theory and the concepts. How are you exactly going to answer the inference-based questions, the assumption-based questions? All of that theory is being discussed in 2, 3, 4, 5. So that will help me improve your fundamentals at least. Okay. Yogesh, phone number I can't give you, but what I'll give you, what I will give you is, since you are someone who is interested in knowing about it and I'd be happy to help you out, you can reach out to me at this email ID. Okay, this is my email ID. Please reach out to me here and I'll be happy to answer your questions. Okay, phone number actually is not available with me. I don't actually carry a phone also. Yeah, so this is my email ID, bhuvan.jha@studyiq.com. Reach out to me and I'll be happy to answer your questions in detail, I promise you. Okay, fine. So for those of you who are appearing next week, may I request you go through part 2, 3, 4 and 5 because that's where you're going to understand the fundamentals of these big concepts that I just told you. Thereafter, we have done questions, all types of questions, okay? Not just the previous year questions, original questions which will exactly mirror the kind that UPSC asks you. Well, obviously not exactly mirror because it's UPSC is UPSC, but then very close to it, okay? How many questions should you attend, Mallikarjun? Depends on the paper. Don't go with a prefixed notion. Don't go with a prefixed notion that I'll attempt that much, this much. Make sure that whatever you're attempting, you are understanding the questions and then attempting it. Don't take guesses unnecessarily, okay? But don't go with a prefixed notion that, you know what, I'm going to solve 75. Doesn't make any sense, no? You play the pitch, yeah? So play the pitch, play the ball, cross the bridge when it comes. Unnecessarily don't have a fixed notion that, you know what, I'll solve this much, that much. Then you are kind of boxing yourself. Maybe the paper is extremely easy. So you should, if you're able to solve all 80, why not? What's wrong with that? Maybe the paper is extremely difficult and then you think, oh, I should solve 75 questions. Then you end up shooting yourself in the foot. Okay? So no prefix notions, please. Treat every question on its merit. That's the best way. That's the only way to approach any paper. From IIT JEE to CAT to UPSC, every question is to be treated on its merit. Don't go with any prefix notions. Okay? Fine. Good evening guys. Hi Rama. Welcome to the stream. So we'll quickly just go forward. For those of you, again, I've given you a basic intro, a layout of what we have done. This is the first question of the day. Let's straight away jump into it. Guys. Global population was around 1.6 billion in 1990. Today it is around 7.2 billion and growing. Recent estimates predict a global population of this and this. All stats, not important. Forget it. Unlike Europe and North America, where only 3 to 4% of the population is engaged in agriculture. Now we come to the part where the author is making a point. So in Europe and North America, you have 3 to 4% who are working in agriculture. Around 47% of India's population is in agriculture. Even if India continues to do well in the service sector and manufacturing sector, it is expected that around 2030, when India overtakes China as the world's most populous country, nearly 42% will still be predominantly in agriculture. Clear? Simple passage? Yeah? Not a lot of understanding required here. Okay? So now please understand, why is he quoting these big numbers here? And why is he saying even if? In spite of the fact that we might do extremely well in services and manufacturing, even then we will have quite a sizable population, not a majority. Majority will be 51%. Okay, but a sizable, large percentage of the population will still be involved in agriculture, will still be dependent on agriculture. Okay, now let's go forward. He has spoken about Europe and he's spoken about America and India. Only 3 stakeholders. Fine. Let's look at the question now. Which of the following is the most logical and rational inference? Inference, what's your primary takeaway? Okay, what are you understanding from whatever the author has written? What's your primary takeaway from all that he's written? Let's look at the options now, one by one. Prosperity of agriculture sector is of critical importance to India. Yes, true, correct. Indian economy greatly depends on its agriculture. Again, correct by the passage. We'll again come back to it later. C. India should take strict measures to control its rapid population growth. Well, it hasn't spoken anything about measures. Yeah, the author has not mentioned anything about measures at all. Wrong again. India's farming communities should switch to other occupations to improve their economic conditions. Firstly, he's just mentioned about the number that we have right now 47%. By 2030, it will be 42%. That is it. He's not spoken about what is the economic ramification of it. What is the economic consequence of it? Okay? So, this can also be neglected out. Now we are left with A and B. Now please understand, for those of you who are thinking B, okay, that Indian economy greatly depends on agriculture. Let's go back to the passage now. Why do you think this is written? Even if India continues to do well, in spite of the fact that we may do extremely well in manufacturing and services, even then around 42% of the population will still be doing agriculture, involved in agriculture. What is the message he's trying to say? What's the central idea first? That agriculture is a large, like a large employer. Many people are in that field. And for India to do well, along with these two, manufacturing and services, we also need to make sure that this 42% is taken care of. The people who are working in agriculture. That becomes his main idea, his central idea. He is essentially saying that, guys, we need to be working extremely hard insofar as empowering these 42% of agriculturists is concerned. These farmer brothers and sisters, they need to be given importance. That's what he's saying. Let's go back to the options now. So this, you know what? Indian economy greatly depends on its agriculture is a fact. That's a fact. Through the passage, we are understanding that as a fact. But is that a primary inference? Is that a primary takeaway? No. Why has he used the word even if? See, this is the key that you have to understand in this passage. If you are able to catch these two words, no, even if, you will be able to understand that yes, he is speaking about essentially that services plus manufacturing plus agriculture, all three need to be given importance. Whereas right now we are giving importance to this and this, but this in spite of having say 42% population by 2030, are we doing enough there? That's the question. Sorry. Which means this can't be my answer. This is a fact. Most of the students, I know myself, most of the students will be tempted to mark B. Why? Because they have not understood the difference between central idea and ancillary ideas. One that I have done extensively in part 2 and part 1, in fact, part 1 and 2. Yes? So your central idea is this. This is the primary takeaway the author is offering you. That prosperity of agriculture sector is of critical importance. If another option was, suppose, now how could UPSC try and confuse you? Suppose if this option was not there and you had another option saying it is imperative, okay, it is imperative that India invests predominantly in agri to match services and manufacturing. Please understand this now. If this option was there, if this option was not there, okay, let me just clear it so that it's easier for you to understand. If this option was not there, and if this was there, if this was your statement A, this becomes your primary, because this is what he's speaking about. That it is important that India puts a lot of effort, not just in services and manufacturing, but also in agriculture. That's the primary takeaway that the author is offering you. That's the inference that you should draw after reading the passage. Now I remember very clearly In this particular year, 2018, large majority went with B. Like many people, good students went with B. Why? Just because of the failure of not being able to identify central idea from ancillary idea. That is all. Good students, in fact, marked B. I know, extremely brilliant students. They couldn't just decipher that the author is speaking about that you should have a thrust on agriculture also, not just services and manufacturing. Why? Because again, it's a large, major employer, 42%, even in 2030. How many of you got this correct? Let me see. Because I know most of you will get this incorrect. Most of you would be tempted to mark B, just like those who marked this in the year 2018 and got this incorrect. Okay? Clear? Yogesh, I'll mail it. I'll mail you everything in detail. Don't worry. We'll have a direct one-on-one and I'll explain it to you. Just allow me some time. We'll finish this class and then I'll get back to you for sure. Okay, Yogesh? If possible, drop me a mail right now only. Okay? Is that clear? Okay, we'll move forward. Good. Let's have a look at the other question now. See this now, for those of you who get always confused between inference and conclusion. Okay? What's the difference between inference and conclusion? I have told this to you previously. Again, I'll just repeat it very quickly. What you infer is the larger concept, the larger point that the author is trying to make. That is your inference. Whereas conclusion is a part of inference, but it's the direct reference. Direct reference. For example, Jasprit Bumrah has not played cricket for 12 months due to an injury. If this is the statement that you have been given, now what is your inference? That Jasprit Bumrah is injury prone. That he's probably suffering from a long-term injury. That's your inference. What's your conclusion? That he is probably suffering from a back injury. That's your conclusion. Okay? So understand it that way. The larger concept is inference. The conclusion is the direct reference. Exactly what is the conclusion? Okay? Make sure that you know this difference, guys. Always make sure, because that's how the UPSC, the commission likes to trap students. More often than not, they'll ask you between these two only. Okay? One time they'll probably ask you what's the inference, second time they'll ask you what's the conclusion. Don't get confused. Inference is the larger conclusion that you draw. Conclusion is the direct information that you have regarding the passage. Okay? Fine? Cool. We'll move forward. We'll move forward and we'll look at this question now. Have a look, guys. Please have a look. Many pathogens that cause foodborne illnesses. What are pathogens? Can someone tell me what are pathogens? You must have heard of this. Pathology lab. What is a pathology? What is a pathology lab? What happens there? Bataiye. Pathogens are essentially organisms that cause you to fall sick. Okay? Organisms that cause you to be ill, cause you to fall sick, or make you fall sick, whichever way. Those are called pathogens. Sure, Yogesh, for sure. But I'll be able to explain it to you better in the mail only. Okay? Because today we have a lot of questions to do. I did have the feedback from the students that they wanted a longer class, a class of extended duration. So today I plan to do a lot more, not just finish at 8, we'll probably extend past 8, most likely. So, many pathogens that cause foodborne illnesses are unknown, which means their origin, what are they? We do not know. Why? Food contamination can occur at any stage from farm to plate. Okay, that's where your food can be contaminated. Contamination is not impure, you know. Introduction of impurity is contamination. Since most cases of food poisoning go unreported, the true extent of global foodborne illnesses is unknown. Improvement in international monitoring have led to greater public awareness, yet the rapid globalization of food production increases consumers' vulnerability by making food harder to regulate and trace. We have the world on our plates, says WHO. Tedros says you have the world on your plates. That essentially you can have food that is imported from outside. You do not know the origin of it. Is it fresh? Is it contaminated? Right from the time it has been plucked, say, in a farm in Arizona in USA. And then it comes to you on your plate. There are several places where it can get contaminated, no? So, you might eat it thinking, oh, it's exotic food, imported American fruits I'm having, and then you fall sick. Okay? So that's what he's talking about, that you do not know in most cases what causes you to fall sick. What is this whole global foodborne illness? What is it? How can you even decipher? For example, today, if you have an upset stomach, you'll just pop a pill, no? Some tablet you'll have. Now, it could be a foodborne disease, right? You are not reporting it to anyone. You are not going to a doctor. So how can there be a true quantitative analysis of how many cases are there? Okay. So this is the whole point of the author, that food can be contaminated anywhere, right from the source in a foreign country to you eating it in the comfort of your home on a plate. Right? Bottom third line. This one. Okay, look at it. Improvements in international monitoring have led to greater public awareness, which means because there has been monitoring of these foodborne illnesses and contamination, so we are aware. We know, suppose, no? You must have seen in a Maggi, in a fruity Tetra pack, you know that if it is puffed, normal fruity pack will be like this. But suppose if it is become like this, you know it not to have it, no, not to drink it. It's gone bad. It's gotten contaminated. So that is what he's talking about, that because of monitoring, you have better awareness now. People are aware. At the same time, the rapid globalization of food production increases consumers. Look at this. He's put an apostrophe here, which means the vulnerability of consumers. Consumers are a lot more susceptible because, again, food has gotten global. You can have, say, an imported pear from Arizona, or you can have an orange that has come from Johannesburg in South Africa, right? So that has increased the consumer's vulnerability by making food harder to regulate. You just do not know. There's so much of transactions happening. How many can you regulate? How many can you keep a watch on? Which food is good, which food is bad? During the process of transportation, maybe it got bad. Who knows? Okay. So it becomes difficult to regulate and trace. To an extent, you can regulate, but then given the volume of whatever is happening, can you regulate everything? Can you trace everything? No. And which is why the WHO, the World Health Organization fellow, says we have the world on our plates. When you sit down to eat, it's not that you are having locally sourced food or locally available food. You could be having food from, say, Beijing or Johannesburg or Kathmandu, Thimphu, anywhere, right? And in that process, where is it getting contaminated and then you get a bad stomach, foodborne illness? It's difficult to trace. It's difficult to regulate. So much of it is happening, right? This is the primary point of the author. He's essentially speaking about globalization leading to better availability of food, which is leading to, say, lack of regulation and tracing, which essentially leads to foodborne illnesses. This is the flow chart for this particular passage. Okay, globalization, better food, then finally you fall sick, you do not know. Why? Because it's difficult to regulate all of it. Okay, now let's look at the passage. Let's look at the question now quickly. Sorry. Okay, corollary. Like I've told you guys, what does it mean? Can someone tell me? What does corollary mean? Corollary essentially means that if the information in the passage is true, then what would be the consequence of it? Okay, what would be the natural progression of that argument? What would follow out of it? What proposal would you draw from it? Okay, if the passage is true, okay, what would be the next consequence or next information or the next consequence or information? Okay, so Now that the passage is true, we'll straight away go to the question. First one, with more options for food come more risks. Okay, seems correct. We'll keep it here. B, food processing is the source of all food illnesses. Is food processing only the source? Like I told you, transportation also, no? That Fruities Tetra Pak, maybe it went bad during processing, maybe it went bad during transportation, maybe it went bad during storage. You do not know. How will you know? Again, it says, no, it becomes difficult to regulate and trace. Look at this line here. Where is it? Where is the line? Unknown, yet the rapid increases, food, regulate and trace. See? So how can you pinpoint and say, you know what, it is due to food processing? You can't say that. Impossible for you to draw that conclusion. So straight away, we can say that B is incorrect. C, we should depend on locally produced food only. Firstly, by a ground rule, okay? All of these words, no, only, some, many, wherever you see this absolute concept coming in, only this, only that. Have a look at the passage, okay? I'm not going to give you a blanket explanation saying, oh, wherever you see only you mark it wrong. No. Nothing like that. There is nothing, no preconceived notions. But when you see this word being introduced, go back to the passage to confirm first. Is it the only reason? Is the author saying that we should depend only on locally available food? No. He is not mentioning any of that. In fact, he is not taking a position also. All he is saying is that food imported from outside, it's difficult to regulate and trace. And the WHO fellow says we have the food on our plates, which means the availability of food from across the world is there. Incorrect. C is incorrect. Wrong corollary. It's not the natural consequence after the passage. D, globalization of food production should be curtailed. Curtailed is put an end to or stopped. Okay, stopped. No, the author is not taking a position there. In fact, the WHO fellow says we have the food on world on our plates. He is not saying that, you know what, don't have the world on your plates. Have food wherever you belong to. Go to your nearest farm and pluck your vegetables and your fruits and have that. He is not saying that. Which means D is also incorrect. Obviously, this is the answer. With more options for food come more risks. What are the risks? Food-borne illnesses. The more options you have, the more at risk you are. Good answers, Mallika, Arjun and Dukhiram. Bahut badhiya. Good. Oh, my hair is all over the place. Okay. I didn't even realize. Okay. Are you able to understand that, guys? This is how you are going to approach. Whenever you see these kind of definitive word statements, quickly just confirm it first. Okay, you will find many coaching notes and faculty tell you that, oh, wherever you see only, just quickly mark it wrong. Please don't do that mistake. Never do that mistake. If you see something like this, just go and confirm it first. Is that the only reason? If yes, fine, go ahead and mark it. If no, leave it out. Okay? This is question number 8 for you. I hope it was correct. I think we had people who got it correct. Hi Jyoti, how are you? Okay, let's look at this, guys. Passage number 3. Good, Jyoti. Welcome to the class. I hope it will be of benefit to you. And if you are you appearing this year? If you are, make sure that you follow the class. Okay. Time is limited. Time is scarce. Make the best use of these 6-7 days. Today is what? The 20th. Okay. ठीक है, ये वाला question देखिए please. Have a look at this question. I am a scientist, privileged to be somebody who tries to understand nature using the tools of science. What is this, guys? This, I have told you, is a transition word, which means, again, those who have the first class, Jyoti, pay attention here. Whenever you see words like but, yet, if, however, all of these words are called transition words, which means the author will now speak on the other side. he'll make the other point to it. More often than not, forget the passage for the time being. You must have heard about science and spirituality. This debate between science and spirituality. So if you have, you will straight away understand that when he is bringing in but, which means he'll be speaking about something on the other side. He's spoken about science here. He'll probably speak about spirituality. हाँ दुखीराम, चलिए आपने बोला हम कर डालेंगे, done. But it is also clear that there are some really important questions that science cannot really answer, such as why is there something instead of nothing? Why are we here? Look at these questions. These are questions of the spiritual kind. What's the purpose of our existence? Why are we here at this particular point of time? Imagine the odds firstly. Like you and me connected on this YouTube platform, both your existence and my existence is a matter of chance, right? If you look at it, it's a matter of chance. What are the odds? Firstly, the formation of Earth. All of the planets that we know of, or at least we know of whatever is there in the solar system, and yet life is there on Earth. On top of that, there is such life that we are living beings. Quite possible that we couldn't have been there. After all, our existence is based on what? That we were the fastest sperm, right? Matter of chance again. So this is what he's speaking about. Why is there something instead of nothing? Why are we here? These are questions that science can't answer for you. Probably spirituality will. Okay. In those domains is areas. Okay. Domains is essentially areas. So in those areas, I have found that faith, look at it, he's speaking about spirituality, that faith provides a better path to answers. I find it oddly anachronistic that in today's culture, there seems to be a widespread presumption that scientific and spiritual views are incompatible. This line will be difficult for most of you to interpret. I know that. I know why it will be difficult, because half of you will not know the meaning of this word first, anachronistic, and some of you may not know the meaning of this word incompatible. What does anachronistic mean? A thought that is old-fashioned. Okay. For example, say a politically incorrect example, but I'll still give it to you. Say women shouldn't drive. Old-fashioned thought. What is the rationale towards it? No rationale. Or some people will be like, oh, women should stay at home. Why? What's the rationale? What's the reason? So that's an anachronistic thought. Something that was probably accepted, say, 100 years ago, but you are still trying to tell me that is still applicable today, is anachronistic. So you can write this down, please. Anachronistic is old-fashioned thought. Old-fashioned thought process. Okay, so now you'll be able to understand this. And what does incompatible mean? Say after the marriage, they quickly realized that the husband and wife were incompatible with each other. Means they were not able to live peacefully in harmony. Okay, they realized that, yeah, their personalities are very different. Completely different. He likes to read in the evening, she likes to go party. So, incompatible. Again, that's not a very fair reason, but then I'm giving you like a simple example to understand. Okay. So, incompatible is essentially not in sync. Not in sync with one another. Okay. Orthodox. Yes, Gautam. Fair enough word. Orthodox. Incompatible is just you don't, like you can be incompatible with your partner, you can be incompatible with your friends, you can be incompatible with your boss. Okay. Your boss is completely of a different mindset, you are of a different mindset. Incompatible. Okay. Not in sync. Our thought processes don't match. So that is what he's saying. Now finally, the last line, let's understand this. I find it oddly old-fashioned that in today's culture, there seems to be a widespread presumption. Presumption is essentially an assumption. Preconceived notion. Like I told you, for UPSC, don't have preconceived notions. Don't presume. So there seems to be a widespread presumption that science and spirituality are incompatible. which means he means to say that today, in today's time, science and spirituality can go hand in hand. To think that science and spirituality don't go hand in hand is an old-fashioned thought. And this is coming from a fellow who is a scientist. Clear now? Jyoti, yes, we have classes from Monday to Saturday, every evening, 7 p.m. Normally we finish at 8, but today I'll be taking a little extra because today there are lots of questions to do. Okay? So make sure you join us. And if you want to have a look, well, you'll find all the lessons under the live section. I have also asked for a playlist to be created, which will be created soon. So you should be able to access all the lectures one by one. That should be helpful to you. Okay? So we'll move forward now. Let's look at the question. Which of the following is the most logical and rational inference? The primary takeaway the author is offering you, the author is speaking about. Number 1, it is the faith and not science that can finally solve all the problems of mankind. Firstly, this is where I would stop reading. Because the author is straight away saying that faith and science, spirituality and science go hand in hand. They're directly proportional to each other, if you have to understand it in a very simple manner. Here he is speaking, the author is saying, it is only faith and not science. So incorrect. Galat. Wrong. Nada. Not happening. B. Science and faith can be mutually complementary if their proper domains are understood. Well put. We'll put it in the holding for time being. We'll have a look at the others. There are some very fundamental questions which cannot be answered by either science or faith. What does the author say? For the more deeper questions, why are we here? What's our purpose in life? That can be answered by spirituality, by faith. Here the author says, cannot be answered by both, which means incorrect. D. In today's culture, scientific views are given more importance than spiritual views. Is this the inference though? Is this the inference though? This statement is correct. It's a fact. Based on the based on the passage, you can say this is the fact. That yeah, in today's culture, scientific views are given. In today's culture is wrong. This wouldn't be. Sorry. In today's culture is straight away wrong because he's speaking about anachronism, old-fashioned. Wrong. What does my answer become? B. Science and faith can be mutually complementary. They'll go hand in hand if you have to understand certain questions that science can answer and certain questions that spirituality and faith can answer. Okay? So that's your primary inference. Correct. Absolutely correct. 2.5 in your bag straight away. Plus 2.5. Move on to the next question. Good. Rai, Dukhiram, well done. Bahut badhiya. Excellent answers. Good. See, it's so simple, guys. Reading comprehension, my God, I cannot tell you. 25 questions on an average is given to you for free. All you have to do is just read quietly and understand. Bas. In fact, more time and more effort should be ideally put for, say, the other sections of CSAT. Reasoning and syllogism and this and that and maths. Go ahead. For English, all you need to do is practice. Have those fundamentals in mind. Probably a little bit of vocab, because again that anachronistic word itself is a difficult word. It's not an easy word. Okay. But again, if you're able to get the sense of that particular word, if you go back to the passage and look at it, I find it oddly, and let this be. Okay. Let this be. I find it oddly dash that in today's culture, there seems to be a widespread assumption that science are and these are incompatible. Science and spirituality are incompatible. What would you put here? Essentially, what would you put? It's old-fashioned or weird, bad. The negative sense should straight away come to you that this is a negative sense word. That's all you need to know. That's all you need to solve the question. Is it a negative sense word or a positive sense word? Is the author praising the fact that no? Why? Firstly, because it's followed by oddly. He was oddly weird during the interview. Negative. You use the word oddly when you have to say something in the negative sense. This is very important for you to identify. Okay? Okay, we'll move forward. Let me just delete this because dirty ho jata hai. Haan. Okay, let's look at this. Passage number 4. Have a look, guys. Though I have discarded much of the past tradition and custom, and am anxious that India should rid herself of all shackles, okay, shackles that bind and contain her and divide her people and suppress vast numbers of them and prevent the free development of the body and the spirit. Though I seek all this, yet, transition word, I do not wish to cut myself off from that past completely. One line, look at the size of this line. Okay. This is called unnecessarily complicating. Mallikarjun has a statement. Okay. Of course, answer, but some people will say, no, faith and spirituality are the same, no, guys. Mallikarjun, go back to this passage and have a look here. Is he not speaking about spiritual views? Spiritual views are what? What's spirituality? It's your connection with your God, with the divine force you believe in. Now you can say that is Durga Mata or all the gods that we have, or even Allah or Christ or whatever. But that's your personal equation with the Lord. Right? So that's spirituality. That's spiritual views. Okay? Which is what? Spiritual views is essentially what? Faith. Science and spirituality go hand in hand. No? This is what he's saying. That he is a scientist, but he's saying you should have faith. So this is your biggest indicator about faith. Okay? I hope that should be, because faith I know is not mentioned, but spirituality is essentially what? Faith. It's your direct connection to the force, the divine force, the divinity that you believe in. Now you can call it by whatever name you want, but then it falls under the realm of spirituality. Okay? Fine, we'll move forward to this question now. Up, what happened here? Erase, Okay, we'll go to his now. I am proud of that great inheritance. So, the whole story has been said here firstly. And what is the sense here, pehle? Please understand this. From here to here, the author has spoken in a negative sense. That yes, India does have so many failings. After that, the author says, I am proud of that great inheritance that has been and is ours. And I'm conscious that I too, like all of us, am a link in the unbroken chain which goes back to the dawn of history in the immemorial past of India. What is the central idea here? That in spite of all that is bad, or all that can be considered to be bad, yet I am an inalienable part of the story of India that started, say, probably in Harappa, Mohenjo-daro and still continued till 2023. So I've inherited that history. I'm part of a great civilization, the Indian civilization. Okay? Now, please understand this. The word shackle, negative sense. Bind and contain her and divide her people, all negative sense words. And suppress vast numbers of them, suppress, negative sense. And prevent the free development of the body and mind, negative sense. It's all negative, and then the author says, you know what, in spite of that, I'm proud that I'm an Indian. Why? Because I'm part of an unbroken chain that has gone back to the dawn of history, Harappa, Mohenjo-daro, all of that. You know, the concept of India came probably much later, one might argue. But then, they are our forefathers. They are the ones from which we have come so far. You know, the idea of India that people talk about, essentially it's them. Okay? The dawn of history in the immemorial past of India. Immemorial is, what does immemorial mean? Timeless. Timeless past of India. Okay? Let's look at the questions now. The author wants India to rid herself of certain past bonds because. Why is the author being so negative from here till here? What is the reason? And what is the author speaking about? Why should India get rid of all of this? And what's it for the author? Why is the author saying? Okay, let's look at the options now. He is not able to see the relevance of the past. Really? Then why would the author say that I am part of an unbroken link of a great civilization? Of course, she sees or he sees the relevance of the past. Look at it. I am proud of that great inheritance that has been and is, that was and still exists to this date. Ours, and I'm conscious that I too, like all of us, I am a link in that unbroken chain. Of course, the author is extremely seized of the relevance of the past. So this obviously is wrong. Wrong answer. B. There is not much to be proud of. Of course, wrong. The author is saying that yes, all that is there. We have suppressed people, divided people, did this, did that. Still, I am proud. Straight away the author says, I am proud. I am proud of that great inheritance. Wrong. Wrong. C. He is not interested in the history of India. Where are we getting that sense? The author has spoken so richly about the past that we have a great inheritance. I am a part of a broken link. Wrong. D. They obstruct her physical and spiritual growth. Which is the line here? Development, and prevent the free development of the body and the spirit. Look at it. Which is why the author says we should get rid of all of this. Why? Because our minds become small. We become narrow-minded, parochial in thought. Parochial in thought. Good answers. Rai, Tanyeng, Swati, Dukhiram. Good answers. Extremely good answers. Yes? So this is how we are going to be approaching them, guys. At no point are you going to just read a sentence and then trust this thing. If you trust this, no, it will let you down in the exam, especially for reading comprehension. Never trust your gut in the reading comprehension. Just go to the passage. The answer is right there. All you need to do is just have a look. Interpretation. Okay? We'll move forward to the next one. Okay. Now the longer passages, guys. So take your time to read it. Take your time to read it. Are you able to look at the last line here? I hope it is visible to you. Have a look at the passage, guys. Can someone let me know in the chat if this is if you can able to clearly read this line here? I don't want you guys to be inconvenienced, so I'll read it out for you if possible. Not visible? Okay, Ray, I'll write it here. Are you able to read till greatest risk? Is that visible to you, Ray? Okay, ठीक है. Not visible. No, I'll help you out. Don't worry. पहले passage पढ़िए. Look, go through the passage once. It is no longer enough for us to talk about providing for universal access to education. Making available schooling facilities is an essential prerequisite. What is a prerequisite? A necessary condition that should be fulfilled. Okay, for appearing for civil services, what is the prerequisite? That you should be a graduate. So a necessary condition that needs to be fulfilled. Necessary condition that needs to be fulfilled. Write it down if you have any doubts here. Yeah? These are simple questions, simple words, shouldn't be a lot of problem. But it is insufficient to ensure that all children attend school and participate in the learning process. What is insufficient? That all children attend school and participate in the learning process, which means he's asking for a lot more to be done, not just simple. Dukhiram, today we'll be doing for us at least till 8:39 for sure, and Monday onwards 7 PM to 9 PM, 2 hours straight up. ठीक है? 2 hours. this is what I've planned, because the class feedback has been such that we should be doing a lot more than 1 hour. And considering it's the last week before the prelims, I wanted to give 2 hours per day. Don't worry, I'll read you the passage so you'll be able to understand. The school may be there, but children may not attend or they may drop out after a few months. Through school and social mapping. What is social mapping? What does social mapping mean? For any project that the government launches, they do a social mapping, which means what's the target group that you are hoping to serve? What's the target beneficiary group in a particular area? How many are BPL families? How many are, say, middle income families, high net individuals? What's the status of each? How many disadvantaged people? How many women? How many children? How many senior citizens? All of that is a part of social mapping. Okay? We must address the entire gamut. Gamut is essentially the whole entirety. The entirety of social, economic, cultural, and indeed linguistic and pedagogic issues. Pedagogic means related to teaching. Ped is essentially to do with teaching. The root word ped is to do with teaching. Pedagogy is teaching. So you should factor in all of these: social, economic, cultural, linguistic, and pedagogic issues. Factors that prevent children from weaker sections and disadvantaged groups, as also girls, from regularly attending and complementing elementary education. Now the last 2 lines, guys, pay attention here. The focus must be on the poorest and the most vulnerable, since these groups are the most disempowered and at the greatest risk of violation or denial of their right to education. So essentially the author is saying that right to education should be focused not just on elementary education, but it should also be on making sure that you are serving the poor, you are serving the disadvantaged. Okay, for those of you who couldn't get the last 2 lines. Okay? Now moving forward. The right to education goes beyond free and compulsory education, goes beyond free and compulsory education to include quality. Look at it now. So far the author was speaking about quantitative analysis. Suddenly he says we should also have qualitative analysis. Quality is an integral part of the right to education. If the education process lacks quality, children are being denied their right. The Right of Children to Free and Compulsory Education Act lays down that the curriculum, what they are studying, it should provide for learning through activities, exploration and discovery. This places an obligation on us to change our perception of children as passive receivers and to move beyond the convention of using textbooks as the basis of examinations. What's the understanding here? What is the understanding? That studying, learning, the process of learning should be interactive. It should be fun. This rote-based learning, rote-based, which we have done, you and I probably would have done. You know, rote-based learning is mugging up. पढ़ लिया, exam में जाके लिखा, खत्म. That is rote-based learning. There is no absorption of knowledge. It is just you study and then you go and vomit in the examination and get good marks. Rote-based learning. Okay? So we should focus on interactive learning, outcome-based learning rather than rote-based learning. The teaching learning process must become stress-free and a massive program for curricular reform should be initiated to provide a child-free friendly learning system that is more relevant and empowering. Like I told you, it has to be focused on the child. Imagine, go back to your childhood. How much of tension you would take, no? How much of stress you would take before the examinations? And what was the point of all of that? Looking back, what was the point of taking stress before your class 7, 8, 9 examinations? But then the author is saying we should move past that. make learning fun and interactive, and make examinations or whatever the way you are trying to judge them stress-free. Teacher accountability systems, and so the word here is teacher, okay, in the last paragraph. Teacher accountability systems and processes must ensure that children are learning and their right to learn in a child-friendly environment is not violated. Testing and assessment systems must be re-examined and redesigned to ensure that these do not force children to struggle between school and tuition and bypass childhood. It's the ideal scenario what he's talking about. If you go back, 9:30 to 3:30, you were in your schools, struggling. Okay? What did you learn? What you didn't learn is up to you. Then you came back and 5:30 you had tuition. Then some dance class at 6:30. Then some sports class at 7:30. Yeah? Or this happens even today also, in fact. At least till my age, it was only till this. We didn't have all of this nonsense. So this is what he's saying. That it shouldn't be so stressful for the student to learn. Make it interactive. Make it fun. Make it child-friendly. Okay? Don't have just unnecessarily focus on examinations and rote-based learning. Make it a fun process. Now let's look at the question. According to the passage, which of the following is or are of paramount importance under the right to education? Paramount is prime. Of prime importance, like the most importance, under the right to education. Sending of children to school by all parents. B. Provision of adequate physical infrastructure in schools. Third one, curricular reforms for developing child-friendly learning systems. Well, obviously this is true. This is true for sure. Let's look at the other two now. Obviously, because this has been mentioned, no? This is what he said, that it has to be child-friendly. It can't be like how it was for us. Exactly, right? So, why is this not the answer? Tell me now. Prime importance. This is already a part, okay? When you go back to the passage and you take a look, it should go over and above, he says, no? Goes beyond free and compulsory education, which means it can't be just limited to that. Which means it can't be of the prime importance. Prime importance is what? That you go over and above this prerequisite and figure out a better way so that we can serve our children better by creating a system wherein they enjoy learning. Which means this is incorrect. This is, in the sense of the passage, is incorrect. Okay? It's not the prime. It's not the prime point of the author. B. Provision of adequate physical infrastructure in schools. Nothing spoken about it. No information about that. Which means my answer is what? See? Straight up. Okay? Again, one question that most of the students in 2018 I explicitly remember got wrong. Good answers. Ray, Malikarjun, Swati. Bahut badhiya. Excellent. Good. Excellent. If you are able to quickly identify this now, then you are set. Your reading comprehension will be a breeze. You will enjoy it. Okay? Good. Excellent. We'll move forward to the next question. Have a look at this. With reference to the above passage, the following assumptions have been made. What is the author assuming that you should also assume? Okay? The right to education guarantees teacher accountability for the learning process of children. The right to education guarantees 100% enrollment of children. The right to education intends to take full advantage of demographic dividend. Please tell me the answer to this, guys. Very quickly. Very quickly, tell me the answer for this. Shouldn't be so difficult. I have a question. Should we focus this much long passage during exam? Is it taking too much time consuming? Well, Swati, right now I'm actually explaining, no? So when you're solving it, obviously you'll not go in this kind of understanding. Yeah? But obviously, if I were to just quickly inform you, in a passage, a long passage, don't go more than 2 to 3 minutes for a passage that is not more than say 500 words. Which means you need to have a reading speed of somewhere around say 190 to 200 per minute. Okay. An average person has a reading speed of say roughly around 130, 140, 150. So it's not like you have to make a big jump to reach here, but you need to be a little fast. Okay. Okay. Well, let's look at the question. Let's look at the answers very quickly. Yes. Oh, I have the answers come. Good. Good. Mallikarjun, Dukhiram, Ray, excellent answers. Of course, this can't be, no. This assumption is not there. This assumption is not there. Why? We do not know whether about taking full advantage of demographic dividend. We do not know about 100% enrollment, guarantees. It's a fact-based statement. How can it be assumption? Okay. The right to education guarantees teachers accountability for the learning process of the children. This becomes my assumption. Again, if you go back to the passage and look at this line here. Teacher accountability systems and processes must ensure that children are learning. Which means what? That he's already assumed that the RTE Act guarantees assessment of teachers. That they are going to be assessed in a manner in which they serve the interests of the children the best. My assumption. That the teachers will be working hard to serve the interests of the child. My assumption. Okay? Correct. A only. One only. Excellent. We'll move forward. Number 19. According to the passage, which one of the following is critical in bringing quality in education? What should you do to bring quality in education? Yes. This should be easy. I've given you the whole context. Pay attention here, Swati. I gave you the whole story, no? You should be able to answer this now very quickly. 19. Give me the answer for 19, guys. What is pecuniary benefit? What does pecuniary mean? What does pecuniary mean? Monetary. Okay. Is the author saying you should incentivize the teachers to motivate them? No. Firstly. Ensuring regular attendance of children as well as teachers in the school. What about the learning process? Is that not what he's speaking about? That you should change the learning process. Understanding the socio-cultural background of the children. Yes, social mapping has been spoken about, but that is the ancillary idea. That is the ancillary idea, the side idea. The central idea is this. Inculcate learning through activities and discovery. Make it fun for the children. Good answers. Yeah, this must have been easy. See, Swati, this is what I'm telling you. If you were to go deep into the passage, it becomes so easy. Obviously, you do not have time like me, I have, to go deep into the passage. But what I want you to do is practice in a way that you are able to decipher the passage in a limited amount of time. You see, sometimes when I'm reading, I don't read the whole line. Have you noticed that, guys? That I'll start from reading from here and then I'll reach here and I'll reach here. I know exactly what's going to come next. Why? Because I have practiced so many passages. I have read so much. I know what the author is going to write now. In a way, I know the story flow. Yeah? The storyboard, as you say, no? I know how it's going to come. Speed reading helps. But then don't do it right now if you've never done it before, because it's counterproductive. You can't take chances in CSAT. But eventually, you should develop this habit. Speed reading will help you get through life so easily. You will be able to read passages, long articles, and make sense of it, while the others will still be in the first passage only. Okay? D is correct. Yes, absolutely, Swati. Well done. Good answers. Good answers. Absolutely. This is the one. Bang on target. Good. Let's move on. Essential message. Yes. Shouldn't be so difficult. What's the central idea of the passage? What is the central idea of the passage? The right to education now is a fundamental right. The right to education enables the children of poor and weaker sections to attend schools. C. Should include quality education for all. D. Should ensure that all children attend schools. Tell me the answer to this, guys. I think it's quite easy now. Shouldn't be so difficult because I've told you the whole approach to the answer. See, yes, absolutely, Ray. Good answers. This is the one, no? The right to free and compulsory education should include quality. Earlier he was speaking about quantity. From quantity, he came to qualitative analysis. That focus on the quality, the quantity has been taken care of. Now make it more fun. Right? Good answer, Ray. Excellent answer. Brilliant. Good. Yes? Is everyone following this? So this is the central idea. Focus on the qualitative changes to make right to education more effective, more purposeful for our students. Yes, absolutely. Mallikarjun, Swati, Dukhiram, bahut badhiya. I'm happy to see these answers. Good. Let's go for this one now. Desertification. You see, guys, what UPSC does? They'll give you passages which are essentially to do with what? Agriculture, environment, politics, philosophy, history. Okay? Sustainable development. These are the favorite topics of UPSC. Favorite topics. Why? Because they know you guys don't read all of this. They know it. In fact, everyone knows it. Even the coaching centers know it who frame the mock papers. They also try and frame questions from these type of sources only, under the guise of trying to replicate UPSC. But actually, it's just, they know that students don't read this. Anyways, let's have a look at this. Desertification is a term used to explain a process of decline in the biological productivity of an ecosystem, leading to total loss of productivity. Okay. While this phenomenon is often linked to, these areas, arid, semi-arid and subhumid ecosystems, and also in the humid tropics, the impact could be most dramatic. Impoverishment of human-impacted terrestrial ecosystems may exhibit itself in a variety of ways. Impoverishment is decline. Okay? Impoverishment is decline. Decline in quality or quantity. Okay? So, impoverishment of human-impacted terrestrial ecosystems will exhibit how? Accelerated erosion in the mountain regions, salinization of land in the semi-arid and arid green revolution areas of the country, such as these areas, site quality decline. Okay, site quality decline, a common phenomenon due to general decline in the tree cover, and monotonous monoculture of rice wheat across the Indian plains. See, so many reasons is quickly listed out. How I've quickly just compartmentalized them. A major consequence of deforestation is that it relates to adverse alterations in the hydrology and related soil and nutrient losses. So deforestation is going to lead to these. The consequence of deforestation invariably arises out of site degradation through erosive losses. Erosion is happening a lot. Tropical Asia, Africa and South America have the highest levels of erosion. New areas again introduced. The already high rates for the tropics are increasing at an alarming rate through the major river systems, Ganga, Brahmaputra due to deforestation. Okay. Ganga and Brahmaputra due to deforestation and ill-suited land management. Subsequent. So what you have done, you have cleared your forest, you don't manage your land well, which is why the rivers, the rivers are going ahead. Okay. In the mountain context, suddenly he's come back to the mountain. The declining moisture retention of the mountain soils, drying up of underground springs, smaller rivers, they are drying up in the mountains. Could be attributed to changes in forest cover, which is essentially to do with desertification. Okay. An indirect consequence is drastic alteration in the upland-lowland interaction mediated through water. The current concern the tea planter of Assam has is about the damage to tea plantation due to frequent inundation along the floodplains of Brahmaputra and the damage to tea plantation and the consequent loss in tea productivity due to rising level of river. So the river level has risen, areas become inundated, and then you have losses in tea. The ultimate consequence of site desertification are soil gets bad, there is lack of water and its quality, okay, and the consequent decline in food, fodder and fuel, all of that. See, so many ideas have been introduced, so many ideas. No, you can't make a head or tail of this, no? We'll look at the questions now. According to the passage, which are the consequences of decline in forest cover? What happens when you cut forests? Loss of topsoil? Yes. When you go back and you look at it, soil and nutrient loss. What is soil loss? The topsoil. It's getting flooded away. It's getting withered away. So yes, A is correct. Loss of smaller rivers in the mountains. He says it dries up. Correct. Adverse effect on agricultural production. Correct. Declining of groundwater. Correct. What's the answer? Tell me. What's the answer, guys? Very quickly. I've given you the answer actually, so what's the point of asking anyways? Huh? Are you able to see this? This is the answer, no? Simple. This is, I think, this doesn't need much explanation because again, I have discussed the whole passage. We have gone through the whole passage. We have seen what are the reasons and everything. Yes, good, good. Ray, excellent. Mallikarjun, well done. Yes. Loss of topsoil, smaller rivers getting dried up, your agricultural production is hit hard, your groundwater, hydrology he speaks about, no? He says hydrology and soil nutrient. So what is hydrology? Look at it. Hydrology and related soil nutrient losses. So straight up, simple answer. 28, have a look at this. Quickly. Give me the answer to this, guys. I'll wait for your answers this time. Which of the following is the inference? What is the inference? What's your takeaway? What's your bigger conclusion? What's the bigger conclusion? Firstly, look at number 3. Intense monoculture is a major reason for desertification in these areas. But when you go back to the passage now, guys, when you go back to the passage, okay, the monoculture is only about the Indian plains, not about the foreign areas. The foreign areas are about something else. They have the highest levels of erosion. Where is the monoculture? The monoculture has not been spoken about in terms of these, which means my answer is what? What is my answer here? So this, if 3 is incorrect, which means this is incorrect. 2, salinization of land takes place due to human activities only. Really? Is it only due to us? Is it only due to us? No. Which means my answer is A. Straightforward. Straightforward. Good answers. Swati, bahut badhiya. Good answers. See, this is how you are going to approach. I'm happy to see you guys are getting the answers quickly. Good, good. This is what's required, you know. Quick. Tuck, tuck, tuck. You should be able to. Okay, we'll move forward. Number 29. Assumptions. Yes, I love assumptions. Let's go. Tell me the answer for this one. Desertification is a phenomenon in tropical areas only. He's spoken about arid, semi-arid, humid, all of these areas, no? So is that my fair assumption? No. Desertification invariably leads to floods. Deforestation invariably leads to floods and desertification. Invariably means one that cannot be avoided, which follows as a natural consequence. Those who clear the prelims will invariably write the mains. Nai, Mallikarjun, no Ray. Look at it. Why not invariably? First understand this. Invariably is something that cannot be avoided or follows as a natural consequence. Okay, now when you go back to the passage and look at this, this is how UPSC takes you. An indirect consequence is the drastic alteration in the upland-lowland interaction mediated through water. So, salinization of land takes place due to human activity. Deforestation invariably leads to floods and desertification. Can we say that for sure? Is that a direct consequence or an indirect consequence? What's the assumption he's trying to make? Look at it. What you are telling me is the factual answer, guys. What you're telling me is the fact. What you're telling me is your GS knowledge, environment and ecology. Go to the passage. Has he mentioned that? No. In fact, he said it's an indirect consequence. This is what he's saying. So how can it be an assumption? How can the author would have assumed this and then written the passage and then said, you know what, this is an indirect reference. Again, one question that most of the people, most of the coaching center who came up with quick keys, all got incorrect. D is the answer. None of the assumptions are true here. Why? Because obviously this is incorrect and this is an indirect reference that he's speaking about. Indirect reference. Go through the passage. See, this is why it's important. It's very important. What you guys told me was correct insofar as, say, your inference is concerned. That also you'd have to, invariably word hatana padega. Deforestation leads to floods and desertification. Yes, inference is correct. But assumption? No. That's not what the author has assumed. Okay. Next. Okay, let's look at this quickly. Quickly, have a look at this. Sure, Mallikarjun, 100% I'll repeat. Okay, look at this. What essentially is the author asked you to assume. Okay, what is an assumption? That the author considers to be true so that the passage would be true. Right? That should be the assumption. If you consider the assumption to be true, that means the whole fundamental basis of the author's argument is true. Correct? Now, deforestation invariably, as a natural progression, leads to floods and desertification. This is our GS knowledge. When you go back to the passage, at no point in the whole passage, I'll just delete it for you so that you are able to read this better. Let me delete this all. Okay. At no point in this whole passage is he drawing a direct link to the point that he's in fact saying, where is that particular word? Wait. Salinization, This is the where it comes. So ecosystems, variety of ways. Erosion in the mountain regions, salinization of land in the semi-arid and arid green revolution areas, such as these, a common phenomenon, all of these monoculture, and then he comes and says, an indirect consequence is drastic alteration in this. What essentially he has said, that there are many other assumptions. It's not just one thing that is leading to the other, that because you are cutting forests, so you are having, say, desertification. There are so many other things that are happening. Not just desertification. He's speaking about salinization. He's speaking about erosion. He's speaking about site quality decline. Would that be my fair assumption then? That okay, it invariably leads to only these two things? No. How can that be a fair assumption? What about the others that is happening across the systems, across the different realms? You have to factor in them also, no? Now look at the question, the author's question here. Look at the question here. Deforestation invariably leads to floods and desertification. What about erosion? Okay. What about drying up of rivers? the flood angle is only for Brahmaputra when he says that tea gardens are getting inundated, right? Correct? But then what about the river drying in the mountains? He's spoken about that too. Have you considered that assumption too? No, you haven't. So how can that assumption be true? How can the author's assumption also be true then? What could be the assumption? The assumption would include all of this, Gautam. It would include all of this. That include erosion. It would include rivers drying up in the mountains, and probably floods in say Ganga Brahmaputra areas, and desertification in the arid and semi-arid areas. Then that would probably be a fair assumption to make. How can I just only assume that it only leads to these two things and forget the rest? Correct. This is what you have to understand. That if you're assuming, then take all the stakeholders together. Don't just take two and then leave out the rest. Then it's an incomplete assumption. It's an unfair assumption. Then your whole passage will fall apart, no? Because the whole point of assumption is that if the assumption is true, then the information in the passage will be true. Compare this now. If just this and this is true, what about the information in the passage where he says that the mountains, river mountains are drying up, the mountain rivers are drying up? Then that becomes false, which means you are contradicting the author. Samjhe? So this is important, guys. Always make sure that for assumptions, you carry all the stakeholders together. Hum saath saath hai. They'll all go together. Okay, they'll stand up together, they'll fall together. They're like the council of ministers. As long as they're standing together, they'll rule. If they don't stand together, they'll fall. Assumptions are like the councils of ministers. Okay, no problem, Ray. That's why I'm here. I'm going to explain everything in detail to you, not once, twice, 5 times. I have all the time in the world. It's Saturday evening anyways. What am I going to do? Okay? Okay, we'll move forward. Okay, have a look at this, please. Have a look at this. I'll just have some water. Okay, a diversity of natural assets, okay, a diversity of natural assets will be needed to cope with climate change and ensure productive agriculture, forestry and fisheries. Excuse me. For example, crop varieties are needed that perform well under drought, heat and enhance CO2, essentially, which can cope with climate change. But, again, transition word, the private sector and farmer-led process of choosing crops favors homogeneity adapted to the past or current conditions, not capable of producing consistently high yields in warmer, wetter or drier conditions. What is it saying? That our crop choice is essentially rooted in the past. We are not adapting with the climate change that is happening. Accelerated breeding programs are needed to conserve a wider pool of genetic resources of existing crops, breeds and their wild relatives. Relatively intact ecosystems such as forested catchments, mangroves, wetlands can buffer the impact of climate change. Under a changing climate, these ecosystems are themselves at risk and management approaches will need to be more proactive and adaptive. Connections between natural areas such as migration corridors will be needed so that species can move from place to place. Fine. Essentially, like animal corridors also need to be protected. Clear? What is he saying? The whole point now, that our agricultural practices are rooted in the past or the present. Okay. But they are not rooted for future needs. This is not being taken care of. At the same time, we should also make sure that these are taken care of, mangroves, wetlands, all of this. And we should also make sure that our animal corridors are protected. 3-4 things he's spoken about at once. Okay, let's look at the question now. 30. Which of the following would assist us in coping with climate change? Before that, please understand this. Most of you will write this word. Again, it's just grammar I'm telling you for you should understand this. You always cope with something, okay? Since childhood, we are told, oh, my son is unable to cope up to the syllabus, or cope up with the syllabus. Cope up with the syllabus. Yeah, that's what people say. He is unable to cope up with the syllabus. That's wrong. The whole concept is cope with includes up. You don't have to say it. So you always cope with something. I'm unable to cope with the harsh demands of UPSC or the rigorous demands of UPSC. Cope with. Okay. That's again just beside the points. So, which of the following would assist us in coping with climate change? Conservation of natural water resources, conservation of wider gene pool, existing crop management practices, migration corridors. Please understand this. Existing crop management practices, will that help us in coping with climate change? When the author has straight away said that our agriculture is rooted in the past or present, it's not thinking about the future. Which means my answer of third one is incorrect. So straight away you can point out the answer now. The rest are obviously included. No, third one is not there. Malika, see, this is what. Existing crop management practices, he's saying, are bad. They are not factoring in for the future. For the future, we need to get rid of existing practices, which is why 3 won't be my answer. So 3 is, yeah, B. Correct. Good, Mallikarjun. Yes, good, Ray. Excellent answers. Good. Happy to see that. Why? Again, for those of you who are following this, existing word, present, current. Will current crop management practices help us to cope with climate change? No. That's what the central idea of the passage is. Okay. All right. Let's look at this. Top environmental challenge is a combination of people. Yes, have a look at this, guys. Quickly. Have a look at this quickly. Today, the top environmental challenge is a combination of people and their aspirations. If the aspirations are more like frugal ones, frugal is simple. Simple. A frugal lifestyle is a simple lifestyle. Like say APJ Abdul Kalam. Frugal person, no? He was not very show-offy, nothing like a simple person, highly educated person, but a frugal lifestyle, simple lifestyle. If the aspirations are more like simple ones we had after Second World War, a lot more would be possible if we view the planet as a giant shopping mall. Than if we view the planet as a giant shopping mall. We need to get beyond the fascination with glitter and understand that the planet works as a system. What is the author saying here? What would be the answer here, guys? Why? See, it will not be B. He is not speaking the only way. The only way to meet environmental challenge is to limit population. Where is the sense of limiting population here? He is essentially speaking about aspirations, the demands. Today, I say drive a Fiat or I drive an Ambassador. I aspire to have a Thar tomorrow. Once I get the Thar, then I'll be like, you know what? I aspire for a Mercedes L-Class or C-Class. After I get that, no, I aspire for a Rolls-Royce. After I get a Rolls-Royce, I want a private jet. That's what he's saying. That's not a frugal lifestyle. That's a consumeristic lifestyle. Okay? Essentially, he's saying, reduce your consumerism, which will be in our own interests. This is the inference the author wants you to draw. The population is not spoken about here at all. Earth can only meet the basic needs of humans. No. Knowledge of biological systems, again, nonsense. Yep, C is the answer. Good. Okay, good. We'll move forward. Have a look at this. Some people believe that leadership is a quality which you have at birth or not at all. This theory is false. Straight away the author says this is false. For the art of leadership can be acquired and can indeed be taught. This discovery is made. So this discovery of leadership being taught is made in the time of war, and the results achieved can surprise even the instructors. Faced with the alternatives of going left or right, every soldier soon grasps that a prompt decision either way is better than an endless discussion. A firm choice of direction has an even chance of being right, while to do nothing is almost certainly wrong. What is he saying? That it's better to take a decision rather than be in like an ambivalent state where you're considering both the options but not, you're just in discussion, debate only. Okay, which one should we take? So he's saying, you know what? A soldier, every soldier soon grasps, should I go left, should I go right? Tell me straight up. Don't put me in the center and ask me to wait for your decision. No, I'm not here for that. Let's look at the question. The author of the passage holds the view. What is he saying? Have a look. Give me the answer to this, guys. Give me the answer to this very quickly. Yes, what would the answer here? Good. Simple, no? Leadership can be acquired as well as taught. If the same thing was redrafted as leadership is also an innate and an acquired trait or a quality, you should have marked B only. Innate is essentially inbuilt. Okay? So whatever you gain genetically from your parents is an innate quality. Acquired is what you learn from your peers, from your teachers, from your friends or whatever. After you have been born. So say public speaking is an acquired quality. You learn from observation, from practice. Whereas having a set of blue eyes is an innate trait. You get it from your parents. Okay? So be simple. Look how simple the questions were in 2018, and yet people messed up the paper. I know many people. In fact, I have been following this industry and I have been a part of this industry for a long time. So I know that the kind of mistakes kids make, the children make, unbelievable mistakes. So this is the answer here. Again, at the same time, if this was not written here, it was just written innate, you should have marked that too also. Okay, so that brings me to the end of this class. 2018 has been wrapped up. 2019 will be taken care of on Monday. Monday evening, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. IST is what I am planning on Monday. Okay, 2 hours marathon session. And probably we will be continuing this up until the 27th of May. Okay, 28th you go for your examinations, and after you come out from your examinations at 4:30, at 5 p.m. you will find my smiling face at this channel, and I'll be discussing all the questions, the answers, and the possible mistakes that kids must have made that day. Okay, so do join me. Please make sure that you, I'm grateful you guys joined me. Malika, Arjun, Swati, thank you for joining. Thank you for coming. Please do make sure. Thank you, Ray. Thank you so much. I was really impressed by the answers of all of you. Please do join me again on Monday evening at 7 p.m. And hopefully we'll be able to complete the whole 2019 paper as we completed 2018 today. Okay. And once again, if you're watching me, joining me for the first time, may I please implore you, go ahead and subscribe to this channel, StudyIQ IAS English. And more importantly, forget the subscribing part and all of that. Firstly, go ahead and look at these particular sessions, classes, lectures, whichever way you want to understand. Okay, choose the lecture that you want to understand. If you have problem identifying central idea and ancillary idea, well, lecture number 2. If you do not know what are tones, well, tones has been asked as recently as in 2022. Identify the underlying tone of the passage. Gautam, thank you. Thanks for coming. It's my privilege, please. So, if you have problems in tones, look at lecture number 3, which we have also continued in lecture number 4. Okay, so tones is something that will be asked. Ancillary idea, central idea are one part for a passage, and tones are the other part. And then you come to these, what we did today: inference, assumption, gist. All of that has been done in part 5 and part 6. Okay, so if you have any questions also, please do shoot me a mail. I have given you my mail, but let me just write this down again. My email ID is here. Shoot me a mail and you will get a response from me. This is my email ID. Reach out to me and I'll be happy to address your question. I am yet to form my Instagram page and my Telegram page and all of that, but I'll do that eventually. Right now, I'm more concentrated on making sure that whoever is watching me, joining me on this platform, draws the maximum benefit out of it for the 20th of May. After that, we'll do all of the other issues that are there. Okay. On that note, thank you. Have a wonderful weekend. Dukhiram, tomorrow, Sunday, I'm hoping to take a small break. I have some important work tomorrow evening, so I'll not be available tomorrow. But Monday, 2 hours, Monday to Saturday, 100% guarantee I'll be here. Come tsunami also आ जाएगा ना दिल्ली में, तभी मैं आ जाऊँगा. Okay. All right. See you guys on Monday evening, 7 p.m. Till then, thanks for watching. All the best. Stay safe. Eat well. Sleep well if you're appearing for this year. And don't stress. Reading comprehension is taken care of. Don't worry about that. Okay. Good night. Bye.